Morning. So I brought a chair only because I knew that Martin said yesterday, don't bring a chair.
All right.
So since he said don't bring a chair, I'll just sit in a chair and do this presentation.
Sit.
Good morning. How are you guys?
Great.
Is that sun in your eyes?
No, it's perfect.
Okay. So first I want to just say how awesome it is to be here this early in the morning on a day that's actually kind of cool out here. I came back to the 10 degree temperature. So my name is Casey Eberhart. Just out of curiosity, because I know some of you have, how many of you have seen me speak before? Okay, good. Those of you that haven't, I wish you well. Those of you that have, we're going to do something a little bit different today. I am going to try something that I don't do very often, but I want to talk to you guys as peers today. Not as a speaker doing a presentation to an audience, but the reason I brought the chair is I want this to be a discussion about the business of being a speaker. Okay, and so we're going to talk about networking, and I kind of have a networking formula that we'll kind of glaze over. But what I did this morning was I wanted to talk to you about being a speaker rather than how to give a presentation, how to give a speech. But some of the mechanics that I think if you take into account when you do other events, it'll really increase your sales, whatever your sales means, whether that's lead generation, whether that's hard sales in the back of the room, that type of stuff. This is only going to work with your 100% participation. Because this is a discussion. I want you guys to have access to somebody that I make my living as a speaker. It's kind of funny, we were talking before when people, you know how like in California, are all you LA based, California based? Riverside. Okay, you know how down here everybody says they're an actor and then you have to say, well, what do you really do? And then they tell you what they really do, right? I am a speaker full-time. I'm out on the road. I usually do about 20 to 22 presentations a month. It's kind of cool because I'm right in the stint of about an 8-week tour. So I was in Las Vegas. I don't even know what day it is today. Today's Saturday. So I presented in Las Vegas on Thursday. Came back here yesterday, the day before yesterday. I am here until Sunday. Monday, I leave for Minneapolis. Coming back from Minneapolis, I go right into another event here. Coming right out of that, I go to Hartford, Connecticut, and so I'm all over the place. So I don't say that for an impression point. I say that as I'm a guy that's out doing the speaking business. And so I want to be able to offer you guys as many insights into that as I can, because as you start out, when people say, well, what do you do? And you say, I'm a speaker, and then they say, what do you really do? I want you to be able to say, I'm a speaker. And there are some signs that you can tell when somebody's acting, as the same as when you say, are you an actor? And they say, yes. You go, what have you done? Well, I did a baby wipes commercial 72 years ago, right? So what I did was I kind of set some stuff up around the room, and I want to talk a little bit about this kind of room setup and how it is, and sort of some different ideas. But it's really, really important that you ask questions and we engage in a discussion. This is not like a real presentation. So I wrote down some notes of some things I wanted to cover, but I wanted to see first off if there was something, topic that we could cover that would help you or make sense for you.
I'd like to hear how you book yourself. We'll get into that some.
Okay, awesome.
How you fill up your schedule, how you fill up your speaking schedule.
Okay, fantastic. I will totally cover that. Anybody else?
How do you develop your persona and personality?
Okay, that's a scary one, but we'll talk about that. Okay, anybody else? Okay, well let's...
The process of developing materials.
Process of developing materials.
Because every audience is different.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to just take a stock presentation, go to an audience and say, here it is.
Yeah, so what Mike said is it's hard sometimes to take a stock presentation and then be able to just move it from chunk to chunk, right? So it's a great point. So let's kind of talk about in the beginning how to create and craft your material, and then we'll talk about the business of speaking. Most of the time, what I find is that speakers that are good are speaking on a topic that they're an expert on anyways, right? And let me say this ahead of time that I'm here as a guest of Mark, so if I say something that contradicts what he's teaching you, then stop me and say, hey, because it's only a different viewpoint, right? I'm a big believer in the Old Testament that take what you like and leave the rest. So if I say something that makes sense for you, great. If you don't, I'm a pretty spastic speaker, so we'll move on in minutes afterwards. But it's a good point, is what to talk about and how to do this. I find that speakers that are bad are the speakers that try to craft a presentation from script word 1 to script word n, and then they practice and practice and practice and practice and practice that, and then they get up on stage and they deliver that, and it's very monotone and it's boring, and you can just tell that they're in their head reading their script. They're looking up, they're reading the script, they're standing behind a podium. I mean, to me, this is a very hard presenter to watch. So now what we're going to do is we're going to talk about... Oh, dang it, I missed that word. You know what I mean? So for me, it's about the material is your expertise. And the one thing that I would highly recommend that you do is never lose sight of the fact that somebody is sitting in a chair and they have given up their time to listen to you. So really the presentation is not about me and the material that I want to deliver. Really, the message is what the consumer or the customer, which is you, are going to receive. So just because I might have a witty joke or witty material, if somebody doesn't find that valuable, I'm wasting their time. So the first thing I would say is really poll and ask your audience what they want to find out. Right? So Mike, we were talking a little earlier, and you are a forensic document reader.
Well,
Examiner, okay. So I have no idea what that means, right? And I was sitting here yesterday when you were explaining it, I was like, that seems like a really boring topic for a lot of people, right? So the real question is, how do you jazz it up and make it somewhat interesting? And when we were talking yesterday, one of the things that when Lisa was talking, that just kept going in my head is, I think a brand for you could be CSI Revealed or CSI Exposed, right? I love the words revealed and exposed, primarily because they have great shock value, which is going to shock people into going, oh, I solve a crime in a half hour, well now I really want to figure out how that really is done, right?
Me too.
Yeah. But the material, really, if you're confident and competent in what you're talking about, then the presentation it matters when you hit your bullet points, but I don't think you have to have it scripted out word for word.
Right.
Now, I'll tell you, I speak with a lot of speakers out on the circuit that their presentation is scripted literally word for word. I have a friend that I travel with that jokes that his presentation is 14,677 words. And I can tell you exactly where he's going to be at any given time, and I've seen him do his presentation probably 60 times, and 59 of those, which is everything after the first one, I was bored to tears because it was so predictable, it was so monotone, he was just standing up, and in the field business we call phoning it in, right? He was just like, okay, well now you do this. Oh wait, cue, move to the left. Okay, stand here and present for 5 minutes. Oh, at this mark, okay, click, go over here. I mean, you guys have seen these speakers, right? Doesn't it drive you nuts because you're just like, okay, well I'm clearly watching the script play out in their head. But coming back to it, your material has to be a sense of you, right? And when and Jane, you had asked about how you develop that persona. My persona on stage is very close to what I am off stage, right? It's actually kind of funny because people will say, you seem so comfortable up there. Well, for me, it's who I am. Can I shut this? You guys mind if I shut this? Oh, jeez. Just making sure everyone's awake. Yes, Jan.
I'm more of an introvert.
Okay.
To me, that's hard.
So just out of curiosity, or anybody else, would you consider yourselves introverts? So I'm pure curious why an introvert would want to be a speaker. It seems very counterintuitive.
For my business, I need it.
Do you?
It seems like it would help a lot.
Well, I think there are a lot of introverts that are very good at public speaking. I mean, Johnny Carson was an introvert, but he was,
So truth be told, the funny thing is, I would actually consider myself an introvert. And I know it doesn't seem like that, but even with Margot is a friend of mine from Australia. We've known each other for 15 years, and this is about I've kind of taken her out on the road with me for a few times, and a couple of times she said to me, she goes, it's so funny because when you get off stage and you get in your hotel room, it's just like you're done. So when I get, my sort of persona starts the second I hit the elevator button, right? And I just know I'm on. And it's not that I'm a different person, I'm not that I'm acting, I just know that I'm on. And from that point forward, it's time to be a part of the production or part of the show, right? So getting in here early, talking with people, interacting with people, it also calms some of the nerves because you kind of have, you know who you're talking to, right? And you can relate stories and you have a little bit of idea. You know, Jan and I were talking and she represents Legal Shield, right, which is the old prepaid legal membership. And I was telling her that, you know, from a Legal Shield perspective, that's a great product that not very many people know anything about, right? So it's also about creating story and culture, right? So my prepaid legal story, it's actually pretty compelling. My prepaid legal story, some guy came into my office. I had an equipment rental company. He walked into my office and said, I represent Legal Shield. I said, I don't even know what that is. And he said, oh, it's basically health insurance, but with attorneys. I said, okay, I'm in. And from there, we used to do collection agencies, and collection agencies, if you've never used collection agencies, they're horrible organizations to work with. They take 50% of your money and they ruin relationships, right? Because they're collecting bills, they split whatever they collect. We called Parker Stansbury, which was the attorney thing. They wrote a letter to the first collection agency issue I had. 5 days later, I had a check for $13,500, and the guy became one of our best clients. So for me, I was in, Legal Shield was a great thing, right? Now, I want to say what just happened. The reason I got here early was so that I could hear stories of people in the room, right? Now, Jan is let me back up. Can I take myself out of speaker mode for a second? As a speaker, we're trying to sell stuff, right? We all know that. Whether you're selling it in the front of the room, the back of the room, you're selling yourself, you're selling an invoice, a quote, or whatever, it doesn't really matter. But at some point, there has to be some value created and a dollar exchange for that creation. Could we all agree on that?
Yes.
So as a speaker, one of the things that is really important is that you connect with your audience. Now, some people will say, give you all these kind of different tools to connect with your audience. I have found that the best way to connect with your audience is to get to the room ahead of time, get it all set up so that you don't have to worry about any of that kind of stuff. And then you find people in the audience, you get to know a little bit about their story, because here's what it happens. At the end of this, there's going to be an offer if you want to take me home with you, right? It is in an audience, if you can talk about people in the audience, there is a higher likelihood that the people you bring up from the front of the room are going to buy your stuff. Why? Because they feel a connection, they feel that you're promoting them. I mean, I was telling Jen, I normally sell more prepaid or Legal Shield memberships than most people in Legal Shield, simply because I have a pretty good story about how the product works. And then I usually say, hey, who sells Legal Shield? People stand up, I say, go talk to them, and then they send me gift baskets because I help them sell a bunch of Legal Shield memberships, right? And here's the thing, and I'm not trying to pitch Legal Shield. I'm not a member of it. I mean, I'm a member of it, but I don't sign people up. I'm just a customer of it. As a speaker, you will be sued. You're going to say something from the front of the room that somebody takes wrong. You're going to trip on a cord. Someone's going to be at your event and show up late. People are going to think that you're in charge of the hotel, so when they have a bad meal, they're going to get mad at you. Like, people are crazy, right? So, listen to me. So Jan, please make sure that when people need some Legal Shield help, that you'll help them. But it will happen, I promise you. And the other reason you want some sort of legal back thing is promoters are crazy. And when you get contracts from promoters, you really are going to want somebody to look them over, right? Because remember, contracts are always written to favor whoever's writing them.
Casey,
Yes.
on that point, I got a contract from a company in Las Vegas who wanted to hire me as a document examiner last month. I sent the contract to Parker Stanberry and said, please look at this.
Yeah.
And it turned out it was decent. It was
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's worth the $35 a month. I don't mean to make that a big Legal Shield pitch fest, but it really, you really do. I mean, I know you talk about anger management classes. I mean, I'm just thinking somebody goes haywire in one of your classes, You know who's going to get blamed, right? And the other reason as speakers that you want to have a contract with every presentation you do is you guys know how most speaking gigs work in a bigger setting. Let me just, how many of you were at Craig's event? So almost all of you. You know that the speakers have to give up a huge percentage of what they sell from the front of the room to the promoters, right? Okay, so here's what normally happens. The promoter, Mark and I were just talking about this outside yesterday, most promoters want the speakers to promote the event to their list, right? It's in the contract that we have to send out so many emails to the list. So I promote to my list then shows up in the room, they either buy stuff from some other speaker, which I then make nothing on, or they buy my own stuff, which now I have to give a huge percentage back to Martin. So where's the advantage, or why would I want to promote the thing to my list? Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And then you have promoters that say, okay, so the split goes 40, 60, 30, 70, 50, 50, whatever, but then you have things like, when does that get paid? Who pays it? Who pays for credit card processing? How are returns handled? This is a huge, huge conversation that the more you get done up front, there's no hassles later on, because when you show up at an event, you want to be with the audience and not be worried about, oh, is this promoter going to take my money or whatever. And there are promoters out there, names that you would all recognize, that are absolutely fantastic to work with, and there are promoters out there that are absolutely insane. And so you kind of get to choose how you want to be a speaker as well. So like Martin has taken a route of doing his own events, right? And that's certainly a way to go. Your responsibility is to fill the room, because a speaker doesn't want to speak to 3 people, right? Now for me, I love it because the most profitable speaking engagement I've ever done in my life was driving up to San Francisco. I spoke in a deli. It was supposed to be this huge room of 50 people in this deli, and it was all like CEOs. One person showed up. So it was me, my assistant, the promoter, and one audience member, right? And I was like, oh, this is a disaster, right? And I said, you know what? I'm just going to go for it. I'm just going to do my little spiel. So we had a great conversation. She's ended up putting me in front of rooms of thousands of people. Like, it's the most profitable thing. So you always have to give 100%, whether there's 1 person in the room or 1,000, right? A Wednesday, it's kind of funny. Mario and I were joking on the way down here how a difference 24 hours makes. If you were to go on my Facebook page today, I just posted 2 pictures of the event I did in Las Vegas. There were 1,000 people in the room. It's a very different room than this, and you have to interact differently, right? We wouldn't have this closeness in a room of 1,000 people, but it's very unnerving to be in front of 1,000 people sometimes, right? So presentation stuff, I always say have 10 times the amount of material that you're ever going to present in a room, and then pick and choose what works best for that particular audience. And for a persona, I would go back and look at Lisa's notes yesterday, right? So let's just talk a little bit about. Was everybody here yesterday for Lisa?
No.
You weren't? Okay. Have you seen Lisa before?
What's her last name?
Stedman?
No.
Okay. She talks about branding, right? So it was really interesting. I'll fill in here as well. So I thought Lisa was fantastic yesterday, right?
Very good.
Woohoo! Right? She had a great brand. You guys are still saying woohoo even the next day, right? Come on in, guys. We'll wait. Did you bring him a sock? I'm in.
Want to sit here? Want to sit on this side?
It's $5. So here's the thing. Lisa had a pretty good persona, right? Now, Gary Vaynerchuk, another great person, has a persona. Does everybody know Gary?
No.
Heard of him? Oh, wow. Okay. Lisa and Gary both tend to have
Colorful language?
yes, I'll use that. Right? Now, I use the word dumbass in my presentation, but I have to tell you, at some point, I always go to the promoters ahead of time and ask, hey, I use the word dumbass. Can I use the word dumbass? Some promoters are like, dude, I don't care. And other promoters go, you know what, it's a little unnerving. So you also have to check with the promoters, especially if you're going to do that. It's kind of funny because I didn't realize, but Lisa and I are scheduled to speak on the same stage in November. And I was talking to the promoter last night. I said, I saw Lisa present today. She's like, how many F-bombs were dropped? I said, a lot. You know, and she said, well, it's okay because Lisa actually cleared that with me. So just make sure that if you're going to go off topic or you're going to use colorful language, that you check with the promoters, right? It's funny because I, off stage, have probably a worse mouth than she does, but I can't even, like I'm trying to conjure it up here to even try to swear and I can't come up with it because I'm so in the zone, right? But I don't think your persona should be totally different. I think your persona should be who you are, but you also have to realize that you're on stage and it's a performer. So my business coach said something to me a few years ago that I thought was so important, and that is, we all know that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. However, the definition of a professional is somebody that's able to do the same thing over and over and over again as if the audience has seen it for the very first time. Right? So think like Broadway actor. Right? A Broadway actor gets up there day in and day out, 2 times a day. They have to hit the same mark, the same script, the same everything, and they don't have an option. If they're having a bad day or there were no bananas at the grocery store and they were mad, they don't have the option of really doing anything with that. Right? They have to get up and say the same thing. So your persona is very, very important. And I'll give you a great example that you have to sometimes adjust that depending on what you want to do. So I used to come out in jeans, a t-shirt, and black low-top Converse, right? So much so that literally on every single one of my products on the back, there's literally black Converse low-tops. So that was kind of my deal. And sometimes people would make me wear a suit. In the contract, it would say I had to wear a suit. So I would make the contract read that I had to go on stage in a suit. So I would change the verbiage of the contract. And then I would get up on stage and I would do this whole thing, and I would have a baseball cap and tennis shoes under the stage. And I would rip off my jacket, and I'd rip off my dress shirt, and I'd have on a t-shirt and shoes, and I'd say I fulfilled the contract. Well, that worked really well for a while, but what I realized is that people weren't really buying anything from me because they thought it was too casual, right? So there is a little bit of a balancing act. You will still never see me in a jacket because it's not me, it's not my persona. Right? I'm going to Connecticut next week, and it's contractually I'm supposed to wear a jacket. And I told her, I said, I'm telling you right now, after the contract signed, I will absolutely wear a jacket. I said, but I'm going to take the jacket off, I'm going to tie it around my waist. I said, it's up to you. You want me to continue to wear the jacket? I'll continue to wear the jacket. So, now, in that case, I have a little bit of pull because she's bringing me in as the name that's selling tickets. So I have a little bit of pull that way. But you do have to be conscientious of what your audience is. And I never want to dress above the audience. Now, there are plenty of speaker coaches and stuff that will tell you want to dress above your audience. I'm great friends with a guy named Dave Van Oos. And Dave always dresses up and, you know, he's got this tie. You guys know Dave. He's like he's like a GQ guy, and he's a football, arena football player, so he's got his big bling ring on and you know, his silk fancy tie. He's amazing.
It's over the top.
It's, for me, Dave and I, because I'm like, oh dude, if I'm going on stage before you, I'm in jeans and a t-shirt. You creep me out. Right? And for me, again, if you look at Dave and I, we both have great results. I just am always conscientious of who's in the room. I want to be the guy that you approach afterwards because for me, it's all about the relationship. And people in suits scare me. They do. They scare me. So you have to kind of know where that persona is. I don't know, Jan, is that a little helpful? You have to be stepping on your comfort level, but also remember, if you're starting to speak for the first few times, I'd rather have you be comfortable in how you look to make you a little bit more on ease on stage, rather than trying to create a whole different thing on stage, because then people will see right through it. If I got up here in a suit and tie, I'm pretty sure you would see through that in about 10 minutes. Right? I hope. Well, maybe not. So I wanted to go about how do you book yourself?
Sure.
Which is going to go right into this networking piece.
Can I add a caveat on it?
Yes, absolutely.
And maybe morph into doing your own events more than, I'm paranoid about sharing my list, so I'm glad you talked about that. I'm not a big fan of that.
Yeah.
I don't want to just give my customers away, basically, and sell stuff I was myself.
Exactly.
So you can address that too.
Absolutely. What's your first name? Patrick. Patrick, that's right. So what Patrick was saying is, you know, he's terrified of giving away his list. Not terrified, that's probably too strong of a word. But paranoid about working really hard to build a list, and then you are exposing that list to other products, goods, and services. And on top of that, we're going to talk a little bit about how to book yourself, and then kind of morph that into, do you do your own events? Do you not do your own events? I'm a guy, to be totally honest with you, I don't like doing my own events. And I'm going to tell you why. Right now, I don't have the responsibility of paying for the room. I don't have a responsibility of filling the seats. I don't have a responsibility of making sure that you all get your parking taken care of. I don't have the responsibility of figuring out what happens if I don't sell enough. I don't sell enough to even cover the cost of the room. The room is a negative room. He's got a lot of responsibilities on him that I don't have. I get to show up, I get to hang out with you for 90 minutes, and if some of you want to buy something of mine, awesome. If you don't, awesome. And then I get to get in my car and go home. Right? I don't have that high level of pressure to make a financial leap into that arena. Now, that being said, you can definitely do smaller events. You can run your own meetup group. I mean, I used to run a meetup group out here in Los Angeles called, I ran two of them. One was for direct sales and network marketing. It was called the Double Your Check Club. And one is for small and medium-sized businesses called the Small Business Marketing Bootcamp. Two totally different audiences, two totally different things. I built those lists inside of Meetup. We can talk about Meetup as well. And we were putting between 100 and 150 people in the room every month, and I was bringing in speakers that way. So you can definitely do that. I just find that for me, the massive amount of marketing responsibility that goes into bringing people into a room is overwhelming to me, and the financial outcome is a total risk, right? So if you're going to do your own events, just remember that you have to have your material all set, then you have to have your presentation all set, then you have to go deal with the hotel and book your room and book the AV equipment. I don't know how much that projector is, but I assure you it's not free, and I assure you it's not $10.
$800 a day.
It's $800 a day. Yeah. And I don't know what the cost of the room is here, but I can tell you this. I'm going to just use the Westin as an example. For the how many have been in that Westin room that's a theater room?
Yeah.
Almost everybody in here?
Upstairs one.
Upstairs one. Okay. So let me tell you, but if you walk into the Westin today, what that costs, just so you guys can kind of have an idea. So the room itself is $2,500 a day with no prep day and no strike day, which means that you get that room at 6 a.m. the day your event starts. So you're into it $2,500 a day, plus they want a minimum of 50 room nights a day. Now what a room night is a room block is where the hotel says to Martin, whatever, you need to fill 50 hotel rooms, three days, so 150 room nights are your responsibility. We'll give you a break, but if those aren't filled, you pick up the cost. Okay? They start off, you can negotiate this away, but they also start off, any amount they give your break in parking, you pay for. So if you give them $5 off of parking, you're paying $5, you pay the difference. So now I want you to think about somebody that puts that event on. I'm doing an event in that room next weekend, and I'm also doing an event in that room in mid-October. Those guys are into that room a minimum of 15 grand for an event with 200 seats in it. So now think about how much you have to sell. So you wonder why you go to events and you feel like you're just being sold to over and over and over again. It's to recoup the heinous amount of money that can be bled out of a hotel room. Yes?
You might have asked a question.
Mm-hmm.
What about the seminars I'll do? I'm going to book a room for like half a day.
They charge you full day.
Okay, they charge you a full day?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Now, let
it's
me
going to be
make
about 20 or 30 people on a recurring, like once a month
Right, so, to get the most value out of today, can I share with you how to never pay any of that?
Yeah, wait.
Because this is really important, because if I can save you 15 grand, you'd be much better off. Okay, so here's the deal. Mark and I were talking about this just in this hotel. Now, I don't know how much this room costs, I don't know the logistics of all of it, but here's what I know.
2,400 for this room.
What is it?
2,400 for this room
Per
over the
day.
next 3 days.
For 3 days.
Yeah, so that's $800 a day. So now I want you to think about it. So he's into it $2,400. He's got a projector in here, so we'll call that another $600. $500. Okay, so he's now into it about $3 grand. Right now, I assure you, there's lots of extra little charges. You have air conditioning. I mean, it's a huge thing. So here's the difference. People go into hotels and they just want to be a tenant in the hotel. I want to rent a room. I want to have parking. Blah 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 blah. And they write a check. I don't ever do that. I never pay for hotel fees because I understand how hotels make their money. Hotels don't make their money on the $2,400 of this room. That's not where they make their money. They make their money in everything else. Starbucks, the gift shop, the restaurants, the parking, all the hotel rooms. You all represent a dollar figure to the hotel. They know that you're going to spend X amount of dollars here. So because I know that, I just go to the hotel ahead of time and I say, look, here's the deal. I know how you make your money, and I want to partner with the hotel rather than just be a tenant. So here's what I'm willing to do. I'm going to bring in 15 people over the course of the next 3 days. These 15 people are all speakers. This is how I would have presented it to this hotel. These people are all speakers, and one of the things we're going to talk about is where good venues are, how to choose a good venue, and why you want to be in the best venues you possibly can. So rather than just rent me this room and you guys make a check, why don't you partner with me? So here's what I'll do. I'll have a VIP breakfast with the speakers ahead of time so that we can have people in the restaurant. I'm only going to break them for 60 minutes rather than 90 minutes so they can't leave. So we'll keep the money in the hotel rather than let them walk up the street to Taco Bell. We'll do a VIP networking group in the cocktail bar lounge afterwards, right? And if you follow my friend Maurice, we'll even do a little pasta party. We'll do some sort of party keeping people in the hotel longer. And, oh, by the way, because this is a great venue and this is speakers that are going to be booking events, I'd like you to actually come in and talk about the hotel for 15 or 20 minutes. And then at some point, let's get the whole group and let's take a tour of the hotel. Now, I ask you this. If you had 15 potential customers, is it worth you giving up a $2,400 room charge to? Absolutely. So when you're going to venues, figure out how to make them win all the time. So the other thing is, I have a huge digital footprint, right? So if we have a chance, we'll talk a little bit about online. Will you guys make sure you give me like a half-hour time zone or whatever, time break? Where was I?
Squirrel.
Total squirrel.
Talking about getting a
Oh,
package
digital
together.
footprint. So here's the thing. I also have a blog that has about 50,000 visitors a month come to it. So the other thing I can say to the hotel is, look, I'll blog about the hotel. We'll do some blog posts. I'll interview you. We'll talk about you. I'll give you a digital exposure to the hotel. It goes huge. That's what they want. There's no way that they can blog about themselves and have it mean anything to them. So can you guys see how if you just kind of start looking at different ways to make the venue happy, then you don't have that huge risk, and doing your own event becomes a lot easier. I should actually do a whole workshop on that.
Yeah.
Because it's just so so great. You guys know this. It's the amount of money that hotels charge is insane. I mean, just to give you an example, I am contracted to do 50 events a year at a hotel up in the valley, right? So I went in and I said, look, I'll bring you 50 events in a year, but you have to give me this whole thing of stuff. So I'm passing referrals up to that hotel all the time. But just to have coffee in the room, you guys think that $5.69 for a gallon of gas is expensive? This is a true story. When you have coffee in a hotel room, the cheapest I have ever seen coffee in a hotel room is $36 a gallon. So think about that. Next time you just run it back and leaving a half a cup of coffee on there, I assure you there is a promoter somewhere that is like trying to get that back into the coffee maker. Like, you know, I mean, it's true. At the Beverly Garland up in the valley, it's $50 a gallon for coffee.
Wow.
$50 a gallon. That's why even Margot, you know, if you noticed out here, there was a little Danish, and she goes out there and she thinks she's going to grab a little snack off the tray.
Oh,
They're like,
hell
no, because the thing is probably like
No,
$15
it would be
$15 a cookie out there. So that's why you'll notice that there's water in here.
They presented me with a bill for coffee, I said, nope.
Yeah, I mean, most hotels, honestly, this is the thing that cracks me up. So the hotel will use as a sell point. Oh, well, we'll put out pens and notepads. There's 3 pieces of paper on this notepad, right? And the funny thing is, it's not even very well branded, right? So the other thing that I do if I do my own event is I go to a printing company and I say, hey, look, I'll make you a deal. You print all my materials for the workshop, and I'll let you put your name and logo on the bottom of everything we print. So now I just get them to cover the cost of the printing.
For free?
For free.
Great.
Here's the thing. I'm not missing you. Let me just give you this point of view here. In all of this, the more win-win relationships you can have, the better off you're going to be. If you take anything away from today, it's change your focus to how do I make the other person win. If you do that, it'll be huge. Live in a sea of abundance, a blue ocean of abundance rather than a red sea of scarcity. Yes, Mike.
I just put on a conference back in, what was it, April, down in San Diego. It was actually an international conference.
Mm-hmm.
I tried to negotiate with the hotels, then I went to a company called Helms Briscoe. I don't know if you know Helms Briscoe.
Mm-hmm.
They're all over the country. They negotiate with hotels. And they were able to get a whole lot better deal than I was on my own. Then when they came back with that deal, then I gave them, here, now go get these.
Yeah.
And the reason those hotels really like working with them, it doesn't cost you anything to work with them because the hotel pays their commission.
Yeah.
They want to do a good job because they want Helms Briscoe to go out and say, this hotel did such a good job, you want the conference here.
Absolutely. So you're exactly right, Mike. So there's Helms Briscoe. There's a couple of others that will go negotiate on your behalf to the hotel. You can use them. The bigger the event is, the easier it is to handle. But I've never had a problem going and getting pretty much a great deal, but I make it a win for the hotel.
Right.
Here's the thing. When you go for sponsorship dollars, you have to be able to deliver the audience that the sponsor wants, and they'll give you anything you want. Because let's face it, let me just ask by show of hands, how many of you have bought something off of a billboard advertisement in the last 12 months? Nobody. How many have bought off of a television commercial in the last 12 months? 1, 2, 3. Okay. Now let me ask this. How many of you have bought something online in the last 12 months? Almost all of us, right? So why are they still spending money on billboards and TV commercials?
Because it's a psychological.
It's psychological.
It's a funnel.
It's, in theory, it's a funnel. But most people have missed the mark about digital and media and internet marketing. It's you got to meet people where they are. And today, I don't know if you have figured this out, but the kids today, they're online. They wake up online, right? The other half stumbles around, gets a cup of coffee, and then they go online. So I used to jump around and say I'm low tech, big check, and I was afraid of the internet and all that. And the reality is that I've been able to accomplish more online than ever before, quite simply because I now am meeting people where they are. So for example, I'm part of this great network called DNet, and we'll talk about DNet a little bit further. But what DNet does is it has massive amounts of exposure. So I can go to a potential customer of mine and say, Steve, I want you to come aboard with me as a coaching client or whatever, and in exchange for that, I'm going to give you 10 blog posts of your choice on one of our DNet properties. He will get more out of those 10 blog exposures than he ever will in his own thing because we've created a platform that he can deliver the exact message to its exact audience. Right? So I'm writing a book right now, right? So it was funny listening to Lisa talk yesterday because I say I'm writing a book, I'm really having the book ghostwritten, okay? Because I don't have the time to sit and write a book. I wrote the outline, I came up with the concept, So the book is actually called Networking Foreplay, Everything to Do Before the Magic Happens, right? That's as close as to swearing as I'm going to get. But
Tricky.
the book is designed about teaching people how to network at a live event, which is what we're going to talk about with this worksheet. So it's everything to do before you go to a chamber event or before a networking event, right? So I wanted to have some sponsors. I tell lots of stories, right? Like I did with Jan and Legal Shield. I tell lots of stories throughout it. So I said, rather than me just making up people, I'm going to sell some sponsorships to the book. Right? So I put a little sponsorship package together. You get 25 copies of the book. You get an ad in the book. I'm going to use you throughout the book as stories. I'm going to give you websites and phone numbers, and we're going to really promote you inside the book. And I sold those sponsorships for $500 a piece, and I sold 10 of them in one phone call. So I made $5,000. I took $2,500 of it, and I'm having the book written. I don't know. I'm just going off on all the behind-the-scenes stuff here. I'm spending $2,500 to have the book written, created, edited, put up on CreateSpace, which is Amazon's thing, created into Kindle. So it cost me $2,500 from that. $2,500 will go towards a little bit of marketing for the book, and at the end of the day, it's a profitable venture, and the book isn't even being written yet. But the sponsors went, okay, look, he speaks all over. In almost every one of his packages, he gives away 2 books because he jumps around and he talks about networking by giving away books. Not totally like Craig does, in a different way, but I give books away with every package. I always give 2 books away. So these sponsors went, oh wait, he's going to pay to have the books printed. He's going to give 2 books away at every presentation. He speaks in front of thousands of people every given month. I'm going to have massive exposure for $500. It's an NFB.
It's a no-brainer.
No frickin' brainer, right? Or according to Lisa, no fucking brainer, right? I got one in. Only because Martin was out of the room. That's all right. Is that helpful?
Yes.
Okay, so Patrick, I want to come back to you. How to book yourself as speakers. It's all about your network of people. I have friends of mine that spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars belonging to organizations and directory sites that are going to get them listed and speaking. And I just look at it, it is too big of a risk for a promoter to hire somebody on a directory. It's too big of a risk. I literally am here because Martin went to Craig Duswalt and said, hey, I need somebody that's going to really be entertaining. And Craig said, if Casey's in town, he'll come do it. Right? Craig knows me well enough to know. Martin knows Craig well enough to know that was a good risk. Almost across the board, I am invited to speak because somebody in a room saw me speak before. So you kind of just have to do it, right? Any of you in Toastmasters? A few of you? Okay, here's the thing. Let me give you a Toastmasters tip. Stop doing presentations for your Toastmasters room just because that workbook is telling you to talk about something crazy. Give a presentation for the audience of people that are in your Toastmasters club. So, instead of doing a speech inflection presentation and talk about martinis, talk about your topic or talk about the business of how you want to be a speaker and create your presentation for an audience of people that are in your Toastmasters group. Does that make sense? Same with BNI or any of those deals. So when we're networking, so I put in front of you 5 must connections and follow-up. Because networking is so important in terms of how to book yourself as a speaker, I'm going to give you the 5 people that I talk to at every single event. And so I put these in the circles, okay? So in the circles, the first person I always talk to at every single event is the speaker. Why would you want to get to know the speaker at every single event?
For the reason you just said, so you get to know them and maybe you work with them again, or they'll ask you to speak at another event.
Okay, they'll ask to speak at another event. What?
They don't have an audience already.
They have an audience already. What else? I want you to think about this. If you were coming to this event and this was going to be a little networking event, which it kind of is, why would you want to get to know me, the speaker, at the event?
You're the expert in the room.
I'm the expert in the room.
And the speaker will position you correctly in the room.
The speaker will position you correctly. Was it to Jan's benefit to have a conversation with me about her being in Legal Shield before the event ever started? Yeah, she can't buy, there is no possible way that she could buy the publicity that I just gave her to all of you. Because the minute she starts talking about what she does, she's now selling. Me, I'm giving her a testimonial. And a testimonial will outwin a sales pitch every single time. You guys see that? Okay, so I get to know the speaker. The next person I always get to know is the organizer. So I put that in one of the circles. So we're going around the circles now. Why would I want to get to know the organizers?
Because they really are the person who knows everything. The speaker just shows up.
Exactly. So the organizers know everybody in the room, right? Yesterday when I came down here, I pulled Martin outside and I said, okay, who's in the room? What do they do? What do they look like? What do they want? What's their reaction? I knew we had anger management in the room, right? I knew we had documents in the room, right? So I can start to hear all this stuff, but if you're in a networking event, the promoters are the ones that hire you. So stop trying to sell stuff to a bunch of people that are in the room trying to sell stuff, because nobody's going to buy anything because they're all trying to sell everything. Go build a relationship with the speaker, the organizer, and then the last three, if you've seen me speak before, you know what these are. Yapper number 1, yap job number 2, and yapper number 3. Right? Could we agree that she's a yap job? Right?
Yes.
Look, I mean, and I'm a total yap job in an event. Total yap job. Here's how you can tell the yap jobs. They're usually standing by themselves talking with a bunch of people around them. They're hoarding the conversation. They're the people of influence in the room. They usually have the most charisma in the room. And they are the people of influence inside the room. Okay? So these are the 5 people that I always try to build relationships with in every networking event. Yapper number 1, yapper number 2, yapper number 3, the organizer, and the speaker. Then I have a formula around the outside in those lines. These are the 5 things that I do with every one of these 5 people. So when I'm there, by the way, I don't ever take business cards to a networking event. I know people like shun at that, but here's the thing. If I come and hand 50 business cards out at a networking event, you know what happens? 50 people go home and put me on their list and try to market their crap to me. The next day. Right, so if I don't take cards and I collect all of your business cards, guess what? I can now put you on my list and I can market to you. So I like to be in control of the flow of information because I don't know about you, but I run about 1,500 emails a day. Poor Mario is helping me try to get through emails, and she just looked at my email account and just went, bloody hell. Like she didn't even know what to, you know. So be in control of the information. I take Sharpies with me everywhere I go. I take Sharpies with me because it's the only pen that will write on all those glossy business cards rather than a ballpoint pen where you've got to dig into it, right? And I try to find out who the person's dream referral is and how am I going to know if I'm talking to somebody if they're going to make a good client for you, right? So I might ask Mike, if I meet Mike at the event, I'm like, hey Mike, who would make a great prospect for you? You know what? Cops, right? I go, okay, cops. Okay, so when I leave, okay, let me back up. Before I leave, so once I meet those 5 people and kind of hang out with them, I then start introducing them to each other, right? Bert, I want you to meet Mike. Mike, I want you to meet Bert. I have no idea how you guys are going to work together, but I just really loved your energy. So you guys chat amongst yourselves, figure out how you're going to work together. Oh, by the way, I got to pee. Then I turn and walk away, right? What are they talking about right now?
You?
Me. I don't know. He's insane. I don't know, whatever. Doesn't really matter because I'm at the event to meet the 5 people. Everybody else is extra, right? So I introduce these guys. I do 3 or 4 introductions, and then when I get home, that's when the work begins. So around the outside, the first thing I do is I pick up the ATM, otherwise known as the telephone, right? Most people are afraid of the phone, but it's actually the ATM. And I make a personal appointment to call the person. The next thing I do is I send them an email. If I can use video email, I will. So let me say this. Someone mark down on the lines where I am because I'll forget. Remind me that I've said phone and video email. This is all about putting the odds in your favor, right? This is all about creating as many relationships and the biggest list, a database of people that you have relationships with as possible. So I'm about putting the odds in my favor. So I want to take 2 seconds and just talk about network marketing and home-based businesses, okay? Here's the thing. I want you to think about this for a second. Doesn't it make sense to find out the people who have large networks of people and get to know them? Good network marketers that make money at network marketing will have a bigger list and a bigger network of people than pretty much everybody in this room combined. right? So for me, I just go, okay, well that makes sense. I don't really give it too much thought. So I can tell you this, that I don't buy a product, good, or service from a big box store that I could otherwise buy from somebody in network marketing, direct sales, or a small entrepreneur. I live my life like that. Everything from my shaving cream, the candles I burn in my house, to my attorneys, to health insurance, every single thing I can buy, I buy from somebody in a home-based business. Why? Because they have huge networks of people, and yeah, you can go buy a candle from Buy, Break, and Return, otherwise known as Bed Bath & Beyond, right? And all you're doing is helping Buy, Break, and Return build a big profit. But if you go on Facebook and say, hey, who sells candles from home? You're going to get 55 people selling candles from home. And instead of buying 55 candles from one person, I actually buy one candle from 55 different people. Because they get to run around on Facebook and say, oh my God, I sold a candle on Facebook. You know what that does for me? Total access to their network. I'm a customer, right? I assure you, there is a higher likelihood that Jan is going to buy my CDs at the end of this presentation because I've talked about Legal Shield. I've given you all a reason to get Legal Shield. I've promoted Legal Shield till I'm blue in the face. Right? She gets to run around. This is being videotaped. This is being video recorded for Facebook. So if she's smart when I post this, she's going to come on board. She goes, I'm the Jan that was sitting in the front room. Right? If she sells a prepaid Legal Shield membership because of this presentation, right? I win and she wins. Can you guys see this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So think of who do you know who knows who you want to know. If you want to know large networks of people, speakers, organizers, Yap Jobs, network marketers. If you're somebody, Martin and I were talking about this earlier, if you're a speaker that says, oh, I only want to work with women, right? I don't get that. But if that's your deal, you only want to work with women, you know who my best girlfriends would be? The Avon ladies, the Mary Kay ladies, the Pampered Chef ladies, the Arbonne ladies. You know why? They hold parties for a living with a bunch of girlfriends that are strangers in people's homes. Why not partner with one of the Mary Kay ladies and go, hey, look, I'm doing an anger management class for women only. So how about over the course of the next 5 months, I'll give you free tickets to have anybody at one of your events come to my presentation. And then because you're in Mary Kay, why don't you come and do a little pitch and a presentation on how to look great so when you get pissed off at your husband, you beat the shit out of him, you look good while doing it. Right? I've just given tons of access to people that you all would work really hard to go do. I'm about making this easy, right?
And you're insane.
I'm insane.
You are here on with you.
I just like creating leads out of thin air, right? Like for me, it's about lead generation, lead creation. And if you can create those leads, right? Like I'll tell you what. Can we just talk a little bit? I want to come back to this networking thing, and then we'll go lead gen real quick. Okay, so pick up the ATM. I send a greeting card, a thank you greeting card. I use send out cards, right? Why do I use send out cards? Because it's a network marketing company. I could go to Hallmark, but I'm too lazy and it's never going to happen. I'd rather do it at my home and click a button and hit a button and the thing sends it out. If I want to get you high, I'll give you brownies. We'll send them to your office so you look great at your office. I assure you I'm going to get a call back, right? So I send a video email, I send a phone message, I pass the referral. Remember I asked who their dream referral was? I try to find that person. I go on LinkedIn. It's very complicated. I go on LinkedIn and I type in the person's name. Here's the thing. People will tell you who their dream referral is, but yet they're too lazy to go find it on their own. It's fascinating to me. Right? I just go find them up on LinkedIn. Like for me, people will ask me after an event, oh, well, I just heard you, so what's your dream referral? I don't have any because if I want to meet someone, I go find them. But most people are scaredy cats of that. So I call the person on the phone and I say, hey, Martin, this is Casey Eberhart. You have no idea who I am, but I'm a speaker. And I have a friend of mine who I really want to introduce to you, but I don't like giving introductions unless I know they're going to stick. And the two people are on par. To me, it's too ridiculous to send some fluff connection. So do you think you and I could get together for a cup of coffee and let me see if your integrity level matches his? Now, all of a sudden, the person on the other end of the phone is like, oh, hang on. Who's this random dude calling me up, stranger out of the blue, talking about integrity or whatever? The reality is if you make good connections, you pass good referrals, you build a big business, right? So I'm going to prove to you right now that it doesn't even matter what you sell. Doesn't even, I don't care whether you sell Legal Shield or anger management classes or anything. It doesn't matter. Watch, I'll prove it. Jan. The answer is yes. It's okay. I did this in Las Vegas. True, I do this same thing for audiences all over. I did it in Las Vegas in front of 1,000 people, and the woman actually said no. And it was like, I totally, if you go back and watch the tape, it's the first time you see my face like go, oh crap. Right? So let me ask this. So Jan, I know that we've talked about Legal Shield. I want you to think about how much money you make on one Legal Shield membership over the course of a year. Okay, you got that number in your head? So for you all, I want you to think about how much you make on whatever you sell. Okay? So Jan, over the course of the next year, I send you 100 referrals. 100 referrals, and we'll take the idiot quotient out, so let's say that 80 of them stick. Okay, I send you 100, that's only 2 a week. 80 of them stick, right? You have that number in your head? All of you have that number in your head of what 80 pieces of new business that I send you as a referral are? Jan, I'm selling this half-drank glass of water with my saliva and spit all over it for $1,000. Are you going to buy it?
Yes.
Now, are you saying yes because you would really buy it, or are you saying yes because I told you? Okay, so great point. So let's talk about that. So, would anybody be willing to buy that glass for $1,000?
No. Depends on what I get for it. I'll buy it if I get something for it.
Okay, who would, without having any other qualifiers, raise your hands if you would buy that glass of water for $1,000 right now? One of you. So, okay, how many of you would not buy it? Okay, so did you guys miss the part that I just gave you 80 pieces of business? I just gave you 80 clients, and you won't buy that for $1,000? Any of you sell a product that if I gave you 80 pieces of business wouldn't equate to at least $1,000 in profit?
So how did I miss that?
Because we're so focused on what's in it for us. We're so focused on what's in it for us that we forget about creating the win-win for people. I assure you that the people that make a lot of business for knowing me in my network are people that are willing to go, dude, I don't care, you could pee in that glass and I'm buying it. Right? I had a mortgage guy. I've built 26 houses, so I've bought and sold 52 loan transactions. Right? I had a mortgage guy that I used to pass tons and tons and tons and tons of business to. And I was selling a product that cost $31 a month. That would actually be great for his mortgage business. And about 30 loans in, I asked him to take a look at it, and he said no. I went, okay. And I walked away. You know who gets the call? Dude, where are the referrals? We were doing so good. I'm like, dude, it cost you $31 a month. You wouldn't even take a look at it. I'm out. Because that is solely about somebody that's in it for them. Right? So let's bring this back to the speaking business, right? Which is how do you book yourself in events? Because I always look for how do I make him look good? How do I make it a win for him? Because if I do that, he can't help but to hire me. He has no choice. Right?
Yes.
I mean, think about it. If I do a blog post on him, if I say, hey, I'm going to post you on Facebook, if I say I'm going to be at your event, you are an idiot not to hire me. Right? And remember, I'm the guy that doesn't take business cards. I don't, Margot's working on a resume. In Australia, they call it a CV. Right? I've had to get used to that. But here's the thing. Resumes don't matter. Business cards don't matter. Your network is all that matters. And what you do with the network, bringing it online, is huge. Right? My fan page has 10,000 some odd fans on it. My Facebook profile has 5,000, like 5,400 people on it. I have another couple thousand that subscribe to me. I have a fairly high reach inside of Facebook, right? If Martin hadn't told me that this event was sold out, I could go out in one post and have this room filled. Because I have that relationship with my network. When I'm on Facebook, if you follow me on Facebook, you probably get sick of seeing me promote other people on their Facebook page. Unless, no, don't be afraid, we're entrepreneurs. If it's a deal, go do it and come back and tell us how you win. I'm serious. I don't mind if you Facebook or tweet on this. As long as you take my picture, I'm fine. Right? Because, now you're laughing, but here's the thing. So this event, here's what happens a lot. Most of the time, and I used to be this way, I would come in, I would do the presentation, and I would just leave. Right? But I now have Margot taking pictures. We're taping this so this can go on YouTube. At the end, I'm going to ask all of us to take a picture together, and we're going to take a big group picture so that when you go on, when we go on Facebook, then you'll tag it, and it creates a big marketing digital footprint after the event. So when we take a big picture at the end of this event, by the end of the day or maybe tomorrow, this group photo will be my timeline banner on my Facebook page. Now I get to promote all of you, I get to promote events, and you know what happens? Now you all get to be put on my Facebook page, I start to promote you. Why? Because I subliminally want you to think of me when you do your own events, and you're like, who's going to do the biggest marketing push for me outside of this event?
That's smart.
Right?
Yes.
So the more you can do ahead of time, during, and after, the after-event promotion is far more important than you ever thought possible. Right? I'm going to be blogging about what I learned. Yesterday I took notes on Lisa's presentation.
Go, Carol.
So it's actually funny. So when I was in Vegas last week, right, I was in front of 1,000 people. I literally, the first thing I said to them, the first thing that was really funny is I was the backup speaker. The guy broke his hand and they asked me to come in. So the first thing I had to do was stand up in front of 1,000 people and say, hey, this isn't really the workshop you signed up for, so you get me instead. And that's just another little speaker tip. So they had put a sign out front that had my name on it, so people were coming up with their catalog, looking at my name and looking at the thing that they wanted to go, and then they were walking away. So I walked up and I stole my own sign. And then, I stole my own sign because I didn't want people to not come into the venue. And then I told them, and then the first thing I said was, take your phones out, turn them to the on position. I want you Facebook and tweeting during this entire presentation. And then I cracked a joke about take my picture or whatever, and as I walked back and forth from the aisle, I had hundreds of people taking my picture and putting it on Facebook. My Facebook page was crazy. That marketing will be huge. So here's the other thing. So remember how I say I get to know the speaker and the promoters? So Shannon, the woman that owns the Wedding MBA show, was in the room watching my presentation because she knew that I was like the substitute guy, so she didn't have any idea who I was. So I went back, she was sitting in the back row, I made a big stink about her. I said, hey everybody, this is Shannon, she's running the show. I made everybody stand up and scream how awesome the show was, give her a standing ovation. It was crazy, right? Very important for promotion of her show. She came up to me afterwards, she's like, I've never had more people come talk to me about a speaker in all of my years of running this show. And I told her, I said, I am here to make your show the best it can be. So when you're a speaker, understand that you are part of the show beginning, during, and after the event. Right? So when I go to a show, I say to Martin, I'm like, hey dude, look, I'm here to help whatever you need. You need me schlepping chairs, you need me moving stuff around, you need me doing projectors. Why? I want to make it so that he can't do another event without hiring me. Or if somebody calls him, because promoters all know each other, it's this very tight-knit little group of weirdos, right? They all know each other, right? They're going to recommend you or not recommend you, depending on how big of a PETA you are, which is a pain in the ass, right? And so what happens is, now somebody goes and Googles me. And here's a whole other thing. If somebody goes and Googles you, and you don't show up in Google, you know what you are? Toast. We live in a digital era. You have to own as much digital real estate as possible, right? So if you don't have a blog, get one. If you don't have a website, get one, right? And I'm going to help you with that if you guys need. So, oh, and the last thing on the bottom of here, just to finish this out of the networking event, is I drop them onto my list. I let people unsubscribe if they want, but I drop them onto my list. And my work comes after the networking event, not at it, because then I come back the next time, and if I built relationships with the yappers and the speakers and the organizers, you know what happens? I then, at the next event, I assure you, if I'm ever at an event with Jan, all I have to do is go like this. And stand next to her. You know what she's going to do?
Hug you and make you look like a rock star.
Absolutely, and I don't have to do anything. I just stand there because I've talked to the people of influence at the event. It's hugely important. So can we talk about a couple of goofy little lead generation ideas?
Yes.
How are we doing on time?
You got 10 minutes.
Oh, geez, I thought I was gonna get a 30-minute deal. Okay.
Oh, sorry.
give
Yeah,
up
he's
our
already
break.
running ahead.
I got totally into your thing.
Okay, no. So here's the thing. I'm all about creating leads and generating. We'll skip some of the lead generation ideas. We can talk at the break if you guys want about it.
Do you guys want? We'll give him another 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Is that cool?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to make you guys some money. So here's the thing. Let me just talk about a couple of things lead generation ideas for you. Right? How many of you sell something that can be sold to anybody? Okay. So do you guys still get Visa card applications in the mail? Right. Craig talks a little bit about this. Craig stole it from me. He did it. You were at Craig's event and you kept hearing him say, "Oh, Casey Eberhart and I, we go back and forth. We don't know those ideas." I'm that guy that he was talking about. So I just take my business card and my flyer and a little note that says, if your job is terrible, you might want to check out this website. And I put them in these Visa card envelopes and I send them back.
Wow.
Oh,
Right? Think about this. If you do 2 a day is 40 exposures a month. 40 exposures a month. There's another 500 exposures to your business. Didn't cost you a penny. Okay? Post-it notes. How many of you fly South? I fly Southwest Airlines because it's the only airline I know that you can take 10 trips to go from Las Vegas to California. So right now I have Post-it notes and a Sharpie because I always carry a Sharpie. So I just flip through this hideous Sky Mall magazine and write people notes that are going to be reading this. Surgery is not your only option for mole and skin tag removal. Well, if you're bored while you're waiting for this hideous product to work, why don't you read my blog? Take this piece of paper and read my blog when you get home. Next page. Ooh, front gate. Outfitting America's finest home since 1991. Well, if you don't have a pool and you would like to have a pool, call me, take my coaching class, and we'll make you some money so you can learn how to get a pool. And I just literally will sit and write a Post-it note on every page. And the hilarious part is the person sitting next to you will go, "What in the heck are you doing?" Bam, it's opening conversation. Right? I mean, the other thing I do is if I have a flyer, I do this with my speaking one sheet all the time, because I don't know who's sitting on a plane. It doesn't cost me anything. Is it going to be my target market? I don't know. But I pull the tray tables down, tape my brochure to all 3 tray tables, and put them back up before I leave. Right? Here's the other thing. You want to get really good at giving testimonials to people. There's a woman here in California who has a similar business as mine. So she asked if I would give her a testimonial. So I gave a testimonial to her. I put it on my little flip cam. I don't think they make flip cams anymore, but for me, the flip cam, this little, is the best investment I've ever made. Right? I'm sure you can get them on eBay for next to nothing. Right? I think there's a Z1, whatever it is. But you want to do testimonials. Here's why. So check this out, guys. This lady asked me to do a testimonial. I did a testimonial, and I said, the only way I'm going to let you use it is if you put a link to my website as part of the testimonial. She said, sure. She goes, you're such a big name, I'm going to put you on the front page of my website. I'm like, okay, well, if you think I'm a big name, then cool. But I'm not going to dispel that. So on the front page of her website is, hey, check out what Casey Eberhart is saying about me. Right there on her homepage. Has a link to my website, video on YouTube that she's just embedded into the website, and then you know what she did? She went and spent $100,000 search engine optimizing her website. Right? Which just means she spent a whole ton of money marketing her website. That testimonial is now the 3rd largest traffic driver to my website. And I didn't have to pay anything for it. So I give testimonials anytime someone will let me. Right? It's huge. So when you're doing an event as a speaker, you want people to give you testimonials. Right? Before we leave here, I have this flip cam. I'm going to ask for you guys to give me a testimonial. If you give me a testimonial, awesome. I'll put it on my site. I have a section on my website called the Success Spotlight where people can go promote themselves. I'm all about promoting my community and my network. Why? It gives me search engine. You're going to tell people to go there. You're going to go there and love it. I'm going to love on you in Facebook. I'm going to bring you into my network. Why? Because probably 2 or 3 of you in this room are going to do your own events. And you know what I want you to do? Hire me. Right? So, here's the other thing. So, check this out. One of the things that, and I'm the first one to tell you I used to make this mistake, I used to hand out this form all the time at every presentation I did. And it did not have this on it, and it did not have this on it. And some promoters are really weird about having your name on stuff. My suggestion is don't work with those promoters, okay? But it goes back to your being careful of your list, right? it's a very touchy subject. I work for some promoters that if you give me a business card during the event, at the end I have to give all those business cards back to the promoters. I can't have any way of contacting them afterwards. Because they want to be able to sell stuff and make sure they get paid their cut, because they're paying $12 grand for a hotel room. Right? It's a catch. This is why I don't do my own events, because I live in a sea of abundance, right? So then I thought, well, wait a minute, this is silly. I gotta have real estate. Do you know how many people take this home after they filled it out? It has their notes on it. They put it on their desk. They put it on their fridge. They look at it over and over again. So now I just put my name, how to get in touch with me on Facebook on here. Okay. Then on the back, I listed out a bunch of resources. Right? These resources, every one of them is designed to help you. Now, let me be fully disclosure. A lot of these are affiliate programs. I might make $5. It's much more about getting in your hands resources that help you with your business, right? So, has this been helpful?
Yes.
Okay, so lead generation is huge. You gotta be goofy about how you generate leads, right? Ladies, you go to the bathroom in a pack. I don't know what the hell goes on in there, but you go in a pack, right? Now, to my knowledge, each stall is not home decored very well, right? They're pretty boring walls. Why don't you take a Post-it note, either if you got your website, your blog on it, or a QR code or whatever, why don't you write the next lady a note? Hey, if your date's as bad as mine, take out your smartphone and check out my blog while you're sitting here. Bam, stick it on the wall. Right? Here's another one. I'll give you one more, then we'll move to this back little table here. So I go to I love going to garage sales and thrift stores. Right? I'm a total geek that way, right? So here's what I find fascinating. People will pay huge amounts of money for pay-per-click advertising, which is a click, on the right-hand side of Google, when you click there, whoever put that ad there is paying a huge amount of money for that. The term marketing is like $15, right? So the bigger the word is, more competitive it is, they're willing to spend $15 to have you click that to go to their website to hopefully sell you stuff, right? If they're good, they try to give you free stuff to get your email address so they can continue to sell you stuff. If they don't, they lose, right? So my threshold is $1, but I buy every book that I think my potential prospect would read. I want you to just think about this. Let's just say that your prospects were all people that were speakers. Okay? So I would go and I would buy this book for $1. My threshold is $1. I have a stamp made that says to find out more, check out www.theidealnetworker or whatever website is yours. And I go to chapter 1, the Booya guide, and I stamp that right there. Then I go to chapter 2 and I stamp it. Then I go to chapter 3 and I stamp it. Then I go to chapter 4 and I stamp it. And then I go donate the book to the library. I want you to think about this. This asset now produces and generates traffic to my website and leads for me every single day. And it's cheaper than pay-per-click, and it continues to produce an asset rolling over and over. If you don't want to go donate to the library, go sell the book on eBay. Because now the book on eBay is a lead that buys that book. Now you can contact them. Or, how about this? Write a report or an ebook on the 35 reasons why anger management is pushed under the carpet. Or the 35 reasons that women need to beat a punching bag, right, or whatever, and you sell that report on eBay for a penny in a Dutch auction. Every single person that pays you a penny for that report now becomes a lead for you. Right? Because if you think about how you buy stuff on eBay, you have to give up basically your firstborn to get that product. So, if you're a speaker and you speak on networking, I could write a report on 25 reasons why, if you run a chamber of commerce, you need to have a speaker talking about networking. Bam, 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 bam. I sell that. Those are instant leads of mine that now I can market myself to as a speaker. You guys see this? Okay? So let's do this. So I want to show you one more thing, but I'm actually going to use you as examples as we go through this. So I'm going to give each of you one of these forms. This is something that I do as, you'll see these as every speaker has one, but it's your order form, right? It's what you're going to pitch. Okay? So I want you to think of this in two different ways. One is I want to keep up with you, right? So remember I said I don't take business cards, but I collect information. I'm a guy that has a list. I send out one email a week, and remember how Lisa yesterday said if you get upset that people hit unsubscribe, to just get over yourself? I can't get over myself when people unsubscribe from my list. So I actually have it set up to where the email that tells me somebody unsubscribed goes into a folder so I don't ever see it. Because I take it too personally.
I thought you had one of those things that comes up that says, "Are you sure you want to unsubscribe?"
No.
And you can't.
People are on my list. People on my list love me because I don't try to sell them stuff every time. I send out one email a week talking about a call I do on Tuesday nights. Yes.
You're saying about going to these networking things, and the networkers for network marketing are the biggest people. Well, you buy their products, would you ever get involved with them?
No, I don't ever join their company, but I become a customer.
Okay.
And then I look for ways that I can help them.
Okay, so you don't consider them drive in, signing up, be
He's
distributed
already
with them.
done that.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody was, no, you can be a customer of everything, and they love you.
Yeah.
I get pitched all the time to join organizations.
Mm-hmm.
I wish this wasn't recording because I would actually tell you what I really think of it. But one of the challenges that I see sometimes are speakers get involved in a network marketing company and then they use a platform that's not necessarily the right platform to pitch a deal, and I think it decreases their credibility
I agree.
in their market
Totally.
space.
Totally agree.
I agree.
Totally
Okay.
agree.
So I think there's a time and a place for it. Almost every speaker I know is a part of a network marketing company, but it depends how you just
Approach it.
approach it. Yeah, be normal.
Yeah.
Don't be a dirtbag. Okay, so the top part of this,
Sweat
You
pouring
handled
out.
that beautifully.
sweat pouring down my forehead over this, right? So I'm
You had to
going to
ask.
ask you guys to fill out this top part. If you want to be on my newsletter list, click that. I also have a quote action where I send you an email quote and an action item every day. Right? It's great, makes great Facebook posting, all that kind of jazz. Does anybody get them from me? No, they're really cool, but they're totally branded to me. So if you want to use it for your own self, it costs you $30 a month. You can give up to 1,000 people. To me, it's the best thing. It's the best $30 a month I spend.
Say that one more time. What was it?
So as one of my lead generation ideas, when I go into a room like this, I say, hey, click here for my newsletter, and hey, if you guys want to get a business quote, an action item from me every day, click here, and I'll sign you up. You're going to get a business quote and an action item from me every day. The cool thing is people take that, cut and paste it and put it on Facebook, and it drives a ton of really good content for Facebook, which is a whole nother discussion. But you can also sign up to use the service to give away action quotes. They brand it, they do the sending out, everything. It costs $30 a month.
Okay,
I'm an affiliate for it, so I do make $5. For me, I don't really care. For me, it's way more about having 1,000. So I have 1,000 people that receive this every day with my picture on it, my website, my brand. From a branding perspective, there's no better way, and it's free. So when somebody friend requests me or they send me an invitation on LinkedIn, I send them an email back that says, hey, thank you so much for connecting. As just to say thank you, if you want to receive a business quote and action item, go ahead and click here. I have people sign up all the time, and now I'm right in their business, like every single day.
Right in the business.
Right in their business. Okay? So I brought two products with me. I have one CD back here called Get More Referrals Now. This CD is designed to be in your car on your way to a networking event. And it actually goes through a little bit of this 5 connections, but it really puts you in the mindset of how to generate the referral, who to talk to, what to ask, what questions to ask, how to position yourself. Because if you're in a room full of sellers, which is what a chamber of commerce is, if you're in for a room full of sellers, go position yourself as the buyer. Trust me, everybody will talk to you, and you then basically get to audition people to be in your network or not. Okay? So that CD, when I'm out on the road, we sell it for $100. So if you want it today, it's going to be $49. Okay? Next up is the CD 147 Creative Out-of-the-Box Ideas to Generate Leads for Your Business, ... how to have more leads in time. I want you to think about this. How much it costs you to generate one lead, what one idea would be worth if it started generating business into your business that you didn't think of. I gave you a couple of goofy ones, the Sky Mall magazine, the junk mail envelope, that kind of thing. I have a ton more, and we put them on 8 CDs, so these are 8 CDs that you walk away with. You get them, There's 5 bonuses that are included in that, and I'm not a big, hey, buy this now and you get this, and a double twisted cream on top, right? That's not my gig. So there are 5 ebook training courses that you're going to get with this. 1 on how to impact your social media, 1 on how to write a compelling email, 1 on how to make a compelling video, and 2 on Facebook profits, creating a Facebook fan page that generates profits, and then actually how to use Facebook to generate profits. So you'll get those included as well. And then the other thing that I don't normally do, but I want to work with other speakers because I think it's cool, and I think what Martin's doing here is fantastic. Right? So I'm going to include 2 one-hour private one-on-one hours with me, and we're going to talk about how to take what you're learning here and how to work with Martin inside it to actually book you speaking or presentation, whatever you want. So if you want that, when we're out on the road, some version of that package is usually $1,000. It's usually $1,000. So here's what I'm going to do. It's $197. It's going to be $197 if you want it today. Okay? Now, here's the thing. I want to say this because I want to be clear. I am more interested in you getting the material than I am trying to get your money. So here's my guarantee and my money back thing, and you know, you'll see speakers do this all the time. They'll say you've got 30 days or whatever. You can have your money back if you want it, right? You've got 30 days. However, here's the caveat. Here is the caveat. The caveat is you must have listened to the CDs. If you send them back to me, and they're unopened, you do not get your money back. You have to have listened to it and said, this is crap, and send it back to me. Right? Now, I know, quite frankly, that I've sold thousands of these, and nobody's ever given one of their money back. So I know that they're good, but it's important to me that you get it. If it's not right for you, then, you know, send it back to me.
That's how Costco got me to read Shades of Grey, seriously.
There you
She
go.
said, open the pack, if you don't like it, bring it back.
Yeah, it's important to me. And the two 1 hours, we're gonna spend those together crafting. What I like to do is say, hey, let's pick a networking event, let's get on the phone an hour, let's put together a strategy of who you're gonna talk to, how you're gonna maximize it, go to the event, and then let's get back together on the phone afterwards and talk about what went well, what didn't go well, so you actually can put into practice, because this is kind of uncomfortable for people in the beginning. The first one to say it. Okay? So that's all I'm offering. If you want it, fantastic. We'll talk to you in the back. If not, cool. I still want your sheet. Here's the next thing, and then I promise I'm done. I'm part of a network, a nationwide network of business owners and vendors and professionals, and we have people in our network that do a ton of cool stuff to help in your business. Now, I brought these not because I wanted to sell you on it, but I wanted to sell you on the concept that when you're at an event, it's about creating as much win-win for the audience as possible. So each of these little checkbox back here represent one of these things up here. And it's just a little extra thing that we do, that if you need help with any of this stuff, you just check it off here, and I'll have one of my guys or women call you, and we'll see if we can help you, because I hate feeling like I'm out in the dark and not having a place for resources. Because I'm a guy that's networked, I like to promote stuff to people in my network that I have vetted out and that I work with all over. Okay? So if any of these, if you want help with any of these, just check off which ones are apply to you. If you don't, totally cool, not a problem. Now let me just say this. I'm going to take a step out for a second and say, the more places you can connect with an audience, the better off you're going to be. Right? So when you go speak at an event, even if there are 12 or 15 people in the room, I want you to really be thinking about, how can I, A, deliver my message, B, how does the audience win, but much more importantly, how can the audience benefit from this presentation when we're done? Right? So if you need help with websites, or I talk about video email, if you need help with a video email, or if you need help putting something on the bottom of your email signature to actually generate business, I got a guy for that. Right? I love saying that. I got someone for that, because I've built a network. I want you to be coming to me for every one of your business needs, because that's going to in turn drive business back to my network. My network then benefits, that network then promotes me back. Can you guys see that? So can I ask, can we take some photos? You don't have a choice. So come on up, we're gonna do 2. So thank you guys very much, by the way.
Let's hear it for Casey.
So let's